And welcome again. Hello, everyone. This is Gary Smith, co host of the Crotchety Old Men podcast. And today we have everybody in the house.
Yay!
Hey, let's hear it up, fellas. All the crotchety old men are here with us today. George Crumley, of course, he's our chief operator and host. And my main man, Paul P.C. Clemens. What's going on,
Yeah.
fellas?
Everything's Irie. Everything is Irie.
All right, man.
Man, that was new.
Man,
Hey,
it's the
man.
same old thing, man, every time, man. It not be new. It be all I may not talk this way all the time.
Hey, George, you done started something, man. Just
I don't know what I started. I'm just joining.
sucks. All right. So anyway, it's a lovely day to be in the house with all my brothers and stuff. And as you know, in the Crotchety Old Men podcast, we strive to bring you information, inspiration, and some education. So today is not going to be unlike any other podcast, only better. And it gives me great pleasure to let you know that the topic today, I'm not going to tell you what the topic is because our host is going to tell you what the topic is. But the topic, I encourage you to go grab yourself a pen and paper, or record this, or look at the recording again, because some of the nuggets that you're going to hear today is going to be certainly something that you can apply, and most definitely something that you do want to pay attention to. So, without any further ado, George Cromley, tell us what we're talking about today, bro.
Well, Smitty, it's something that we're probably going to be dealing with the rest of the year, if not going forward. But it's verifying information and making sure the information that we're getting is correct and information is taking us where we need to go. We're going to talk about first time buyer programs. We're going to talk about when you're out there and you're looking at to buy a house. And one of the things I'm gonna call it a myth is we've been bombarded with the fact that interest rates are too high, therefore I can't buy a house. And hopefully today we're going to kind of dispel that rumor and really talk about, how you put yourself in position to, buy a home, because that's still the dream and it should still be your dream. You should not, you work all day, you should have a home because that's how we've traditionally built wealth over years. That's how we've left legacies for our children. And if we don't continue to pursue home ownership, it's going to have a detrimental effect on not only our life, but the lives of our children. Because you have to think about it. If you're just renting, okay, that's just like blowing the money out of the window. You're not gaining any equity. You're not getting any improvements as far as being able to upgrade and do things that you want to enjoy with it. Home ownership brings. So this is something I think we really need to talk about, and that's what we're going to do today.
All right, bring it on.
Okay, so first of all, I mentioned interest rates, and I think that's one of the things that I come up against because I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Atlanta, and that's one of the things that first individuals tell me is that the interest rates are too high, okay, and they're going to come down. Well, first of all, what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, I don't think you're going to see those interest rates again. That's just me personally. I mean, I looked at a chart that basically looked at interest rates from 1972 to 2024. And remember, I think I bought my first home in either 79 or 80. And the interest rates were somewhere around 15 or 16%. Okay. Now, of course, what you're going to say is, well, the houses were a little less expensive too. But then you have to keep in mind that I wasn't making as much money as we're making these days. So some things are relative as far as how you have to look at them and look at the sign of time. So interest rates right now, I think I heard they were somewhere around 6.42. And you could probably get it lower than that if you buy points. But when I look at this chart I was just talking about, the interest rates, when you look at an average, the average interest rates are somewhere between 7.72 and 6.72. So we're not that far off right now. And that's one of the things you have to take in consideration, is where they are how are what's really affecting that, and are they where they should be? So that's kind of my premise as far as when you look at interest rates.
You know, when I hear that statement often sometimes about the interest rate being high, and I question that because high compared to what? Just your point you're drafting out here is that today, yeah, they were high back in 79, 80, 81. Matter of fact, George, they were even higher than the 15% that you just stated. I mean, in the Detroit market, I can recall a time when the interest rates was hovering really close to 18%. But whether it's 18 or 15, it really doesn't matter because the interest rates are relative and then they're in relative in some aspects because it's not really so much how much the interest rates or how high interest rates are. And I think historically, as you've shown or proven, interest rates are still at the 6 or 7 percentile, still lower than they've been in a long time. Um, to your point, we're not going back to that 3% or 2% that people kind of got a little comfortable with back several years ago. That was an anomaly. All right. That is not the true, I mean, not the regular pace of interest rates. And so, whether they're high, low, or in between, it should not be a deterrent for you to seek home ownership, especially, like you said, George, when there are first time home buyer programs out there. So let's talk about that. I think more people need to be aware of the different types of first time home buyer programs that are out there. And certainly they should engage in hiring or working with a professional real estate agent such as yourself who can guide them through that process.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, home ownership is the bedrock, and we can't forget that. So we have to make sure we do our due diligence, because you look at people are paying 27, 28, $3,000 a month for to rent. Okay, that's just like flushing money down the toilet. So you have to look at, how, if I'm trying to build a family, how do I get the best for my buck? And that's got to be, home ownership. I'll give you another statistic. Okay, so if you buy, and this is here again, the Georgia market, if you, and what I'm going to talk about is appreciation, which is something you have to take in consideration when you're buying a house. So if you buy a $600,000 house in Georgia, okay, the average appreciation rate right now is about 4%. So you do the math. Okay. So if you keep that house for 10 years, that house is going to appreciate 4%, which is about $244,000. So here again, that's a 395% increase that you would gain, by buying a house in today's market because of the appreciation. And that's probably one of the things that people overlook when buying a house. Yeah, buying a house that you're going to live in is not an investment. We want to make sure we make that clear. It's not an investment, but it can be an investment in your future because there's a lot of things that once you build up that equity, there's a lot of things that you can do for your future to here again fortify your future. So that's one of the things that you know a good agent will tell you. You want to look at the interest rate and look at where the interest rates are. You want to look at the appreciation in the area that you're buying, and those are the kind of things that should encourage you as far as why you're buying this house and why it's a good time to buy the house. Obviously, affordability is the other reason. If you can afford to buy a house, and there's things that you have to do to prepare yourself to buy that house. Okay, one of them being is savings, making sure that you're saving enough. Every day when you go to work, you're putting enough aside, and that becomes your goal is to become a homeowner. And it's not, you can't do it without saving. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going up, but you still, we've talked about this in previous podcasts, how you budget yourself and you build your budget and you build your lifestyle style. It's like if you want to do anything else, you have to build that budget. It becomes a bucket for, where you're going to put the money that you're putting aside to buy a home. And then there's windfalls that you get, there's tax returns and things of that nature that you get additional bumps that will help you get there quicker. But it's something that you have to focus on and something that you have to put a lot of stake in doing.
That's so true about, and I'm a numbers guy. I like dealing with the numbers, and As you're saying, about a $600,000 home that appreciates at 4% over a 10-year period of time makes that about a $850,000 note. I mean, not note, but
House.
appreciation value.
Hmm.
Right, there's your value there. So now, when you subtract the difference, which is about $250,000 over a 10-year period of time, that's what, $25,000. Now, with some of the first-time home owner programs, as I understand them, you can get a down. You put buy a home of that size for as little as a 3,000. I mean, a 3% interest rate, which comes to
Three
the
percent down.
3% down. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Hmm.
Yeah, 3% down. Well, 3% of 600,000 is $18,000. So you can't just wake up today and figure you're going to go out looking for houses next week in the $600,000 range if you have not did your pre-planning and, of course, saved up $18,000. Now that's not the all that you need because you're going to need some more closing costs and you're going to, of course, need some money in the bank for whatever repairs, depending upon the condition of the house. But my point, what I'm making here, is that 18,000 or 3%. You, to your point, you must have a plan. You have to start now, especially if you're younger. Start planning for that home. All right, and the quicker you want to move in, then the more you need to save because it's time value of money. And so if it's going to take you 10 years to get that 18,000 and you need to move like you want to move in another year or two because you're concerned about this thing called inflation. And just like we talk about appreciation, well, if you're looking at a $600,000 home today and you're not prepared to buy it over a 10-year period of time, that same $600,000 home is going to be worth 850. Now you take 3% of that.
Right. That's why you got to put a stake in the ground. You
Right.
got to put a stake in the ground, and you want to get on that appreciation train as quickly as you possibly can. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, that's and it's a lot of other things that we'll talk about in other podcasts as far as investment properties and things of that nature. But we're going to kind of stay focused right now on your first time home. So some of the things you should consider when you're buying your first home is your commute time. You want to make sure that you get a home that's going to basically not to be too far, because here again, that adds to your weekly outlay. If you've got to drive another 30, 40 minutes, hour and a half, 2 hours to work, that's wear and tear on you. That's more gas, that's wear and tear on your car. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider. So commute time is very, very important when you're looking to buy a home. So that means location. How do you get to that place where it's good for you, it's good for your spouse, it's good for your family, if that's if those people are involved also. So that's something you really have to take in consideration. I know a lot of people take that in consideration when they buy a home, is what the distance is going to be and what that's going to take on my body, and as far as getting back and forth from home to work.
George, I think we need to kind of pause and back up a little bit because we are talking about first-time homeowners, and $600,000 home is still in most markets a pretty nice size home. And so, depending upon what your income bracket is, I can see it could be a first-time home buyer in that price range. However, I think PC and I were talking about it earlier that does your income keep up with that growth or that appreciation in housing value? And that's probably one of the deterrents, if you will, or the delays, let's put it that way. Because if your income, if your source of livelihood does not keep up or stay ahead of that appreciation, aka inflation, then it does kind of either you have to dial back or dial down your expectations as far as your first home. But by getting that first home, it enables you to leverage into that second home, that six, seven, $800,000 home. For a first time home buyer, they may have to go into a 250, maybe a $300,000 home. Nothing wrong with that, depending upon the markets and stuff. And to your point, your lifestyle is going to be centered around your location of where that home is. And one of the most salient things for me was be with those of us who have children. You want to make certain that that home is located in an area where there's good schools. Okay, as a first-time home buyer, either you're moving in with a family or you're planning to have a family, create a family. Well, you have to think about those things too along in that process. So I want to make sure that our listeners are clear about that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm laughing, Smitty, is because you just kind of took my next 3 points off of. You must have read my notes.
Subliminally.
There you go. There you. But no, you're spot on. I mean, your first home is not going to be your perfect home. You're absolutely right. You got to get what they say, get in where you fit in.
That's right.
But the whole point is you got to start, and that's just so important. You may have to start with a condo. Our daughter, that's where she started out of college. We found her a condo that was affordable. XYZ happened, and now she's in her home. She's in a home that she's enjoying with her family. But you got to start somewhere, and so you can't come with the idea that right off the bat, if your income doesn't support a $600,000 home, that you're going to be able to move in one. But there are a lot of homes out here that sell for considerably less, and sometimes offer somewhat of the same things. I'm always scouring the list of foreclosures and homes that have been foreclosed on and have been rehabbed, investor specials and things of that nature, which can still be your first home, because they are a lot less expensive and may fit into your budget. So, but those are the kind of avenues that you have to also look at. It's not going to always be, like I said, your perfect home. And the other thing, like you said, is you got to look at your family size. Yeah, we've only got the one kid right now, but we're going to obviously grow. But we're going to get in here with this, this 2-bedroom right now, and then we can grow to more. As our family grows, we'll be able to use this house as a stepping stone. And that's kind of what we talked about is getting a stake in the ground and then being able to take with the equity from that home, whether you decide to keep that home and make it a rental or take that equity, cash out and buy something bigger. But those are the options you have. And without getting to the housing market, you don't have those options.
Right.
So, a couple other things you have to consider is ensuring that once you get into the home is that make sure you've got some type of emergency fund. So once you get into the home, you don't want to stop saving. You still have to save and make sure that you have some type of emergency fund, something that's going to, if something goes wrong, that you're able to fix it. You want to look at and make sure you get some kind of home warranty program so that, here again, it's going to take some of the burden off of you if something breaks. But there's a lot of things that you can look at, and then of course, obviously, I know with my first home, I did a lot of the work myself. So you gain skills that you may not have thought you had or you didn't think you had to develop, but you become the plumber and the electrician real quick.
Sounds like you better have some skills.
Well, you go, or even right now we got YouTube, so a lot of those skills can come from online.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh,
but here again, it's just to encourage everybody because my thing is there's a lot of narratives out here right now, and I think we as Black folks kind of jump on the narrative bandwagon real quick and think that this is something that's unaffordable, out of touch, out of my realm, and it's something I can't do. Yeah, my parents did it, but I can't do that. But I'm here to say, when there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
And it's something that you definitely should consider putting in your budget. Putting in your view. Being a homeowner, because it can take you a lot of places. Both financially and mentally. There's just a sense of belonging when you're in your own home. It's a safe space, so it's something you should really consider.
And George, there's another way of also securing our community. If there, without having home ownership, which is the gateway or the pathway to creating wealth, and you've outlined several steps in which to do that. But it's so important. It's more important now than it ever was, because I just think about the Detroit area and the market why it was about 30 years ago. Detroit had far more homeowners. We're talking about African Americans here than any state in the United States. there are more homeowners in Detroit, Michigan, okay, because we have so many single family homes now. But because of, for everything from unemployment to so many other social issues and what have you that has gone on, that now that is not the case. A huge majority of African Americans in the Detroit market are renters.
Okay.
Okay. And that has to change because you cannot create wealth renting from somebody else.
No.
At least not for yourself. Now you're creating wealth for that guy or gal that owns that house, but you're not creating it for yourself. And it's one of the gateways there. Is probably one of the surest paths because, as you said, you gain equity. And if you can, you take that equity and buy another home and rent that one out, the one that you're leaving out, and wash, rinse, and repeat. And after a while, you're in that six, seven, $800,000 home, but someone else is paying that note.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you also, you fortify yourself in the community. I mean, it's a good thing to say when people say, "Well, do you own or rent?" You say, "I own." And that's something that's a stature in the community because we have to invest in ourselves and we have to invest in our communities. That's what's going to be the cornerstone and how we move forward. A lot of people get hung up on a lot of this stuff that's going on out of our control. There's a lot of stuff flying in the news every day. He did this, he did that, he took away this. Well, we got to do what we can for ourselves. We can't take our eyes off the ball, off the prize. And we got to still see what's important to us and can't allow a lot of these things to affect our lives on a day-to-day basis.
That's so true. Um, because when you look at the systemic racism and things of that nature that relates to home ownership, home ownership gives you a voice because as a property tax, you're paying property tax. So you have a voice about your school system. You have a voice about utilities and amenities in your community. You have a voice in all of that stuff, whereby not having that voice is the person, like, what does the old saying go? He who has the gold makes the rules.
Makes the rules. There you go.
All right.
There you go.
So it's no different. And as a matter of fact, it's so important because you look at many of the predominantly black neighborhoods, and that's not every predominantly black neighborhood. Don't get me wrong, because most of us live in very well kept predominantly black neighborhoods. Okay. So, but however, in some cases, that's an aberration because in most of our neighborhoods, the school systems are crumbling. Okay, they don't have enough books, they have enough computers, and we could go on and on. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with that. But without that ownership voice, now you're pressed to have to bus your children to a home outside of your community. Okay, and that adds to expenses and stuff like that. Not to mention that the diatribe that they teach our kids when they're not around us, not within the community, they lose that connection, lose that social skills or ability of how to be able to communicate and all that sort of stuff. So it's a lot of things that are tied into home ownership, and so we want to encourage people that are renting and encourage you, don't listen to that BS that you're hearing about interest rates are too high and all this kind of stuff. I think George said it succinctly. If there is a will, there is a way.
Absolutely. So I'm going to sum all this up by giving you 4 things that you should look for when you're talking to a mortgage guy. Some of the things you want to take in consideration. First thing is ensure you have a stable income, emergency fund covering at least 3 months of expenses. That's something that really helps you when you go to apply for that mortgage. Check and see if there's any improvements to your credit score. Check and make sure you're managing your credit score like you're managing everything else. And when it comes down to it, credit scores are pretty easy to manage, and it's just paying your bills on time. That's all it is, paying your bills on time. And guess what? If you pay more than what that minimum balance is, your credit score goes up even more. So it's no big secret to how you control your own credit score. Don't charge too much, pay it off every month, and keep it moving. Stay within your means. Determine affordability. How much can you really afford comfortably every month? Don't buy too much. Okay, house. And then last thing is save for a down payment. So those are kind of 4 things that when you go to talk to a mortgage guy, that's the kind of things that they're going to be asking. That's the kind of things you want to look for.
It boils down to this: live within your means.
There you
Stop
go.
buying crap that you know you can't afford to impress people that you don't know or don't care a good hot chocolate about your butt.
I
Okay?
love it. I
that's,
love it. There you
that's
go.
what we got to start. All right. So, George, you got anything else for us?
No, man, that should give it. That should do it all. Hopefully, people will take this to heart, do their research, do their due diligence, and become homeowners.
Amen. Amen. Well, here we go. I got to come up with I don't have to, but got to come up with a word for today because if we didn't do
Absolutely.
that, we would not be the crotchety old man, right? So here we go. Be passionate about what you do. Because if you're not passionate about what you do in life, then you need to be doing something else. that's,
Absolutely.
that's a
That's good stuff
GLC.
there, man.
All right. So
And
if
as
we,
we always say on the Crotchety Old Man, if you didn't know, now you
now
know.
you know.
Take care.
See you next week.